Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. And seeing how we are still in the month of Nostalgia-ween, I figure we would play a little game, simply known as the Stephen King game. Good old Stephen King. His prose are great, but his stories are He has wonderful setups, but disappointing payoffs. He creates some great characters, and fortunately you get to see them over and over and over again. And one of the best ways to see his continuing patterns is to look at the numbingly long TV miniseries, It. Based on the Stephen King book of the same name, It is another one of those films that loves to succumb to the melodramatic cliches that always seems to make it into every one of his stories. But what really surprises me is how many people say they're actually afraid of this movie. And that's why I've invented this game to calm your nerves. There's a lot of movie to watch and a lot of to drink, so let's take a look. First of all, take a shot if your Stephen King story takes place in Maine. Well, that didn't take long. Yeah, our story takes place in Maine, where everybody has a checkered past, bullies make up most of the population, and cheesy lightning effects reign supreme. In this particular town, we come across a girl who sees a rather unusual sight. Hi. Tim Curry! And if that's not scary enough, it looks like he's coming from the Black Mass of Ronald McDonald. So the kid gets murdered as Mike, the only man in Maine, notices that this is the 6th recent child killing. So he calls up his old childhood friends to let them know what's going on. He starts with Bill, who grew up into the back of a horse's.
This is Mike Hanlon, Bill, from Derry.
This causes him to have a flashback, which I'm not going to have you drink to every time it happens, because if you did, you'd be dead in the first 12 minutes.
Please, Bill, tell me a story.
Go bug somebody else, you little cootie. I don't feel so hot.
This is Bill as a young man, played by Jonathan Brandis. He makes his brother Georgie a paper boat for him to sail outside. Thankfully, it's the sunniest rainy day in history, so he can go outside and enjoy it. That is, until the missing member of the Insane Clown Posse comes to join him.
There's cotton candy and rides and all sorts of surprises down here. And balloons, too.
Do they float?
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float.
I'm getting surprisingly the more I talk about how much they float.
You float, too!
So the kid gets eaten by a sloppy dissolve effect as his sad brother goes into his room feeling responsible. And it's fair to point out that this is actually a creepy scene here. The book starts to have its time of the month.
Good night, everybody. When
Bill calls for his folks to see it. But the parents, surprisingly, don't seem to see the blood on the book.
What were you doing in Georgie's room?
Nothing. Dad, listen!
I don't want you ever coming in here again, son. Do you understand?
How dare you try to mourn the loss of your one and only brother! Cut back to the present day as grown-up Bill decides it's time to go back to Maine.
Leave? Have you lost your mind? We're in the middle of making a movie.
They can replace me.
Yeah, if I saw Tim Curry in a clown suit, I'd probably leave production too. Oh, by the way, just to avoid future disappointment, let's take an early shot for a supernatural creature who's never given an explanation of exactly what it is or where exactly it came from.
Oh, that's good letdown.
Meanwhile, we cut to another childhood friend named Ben, played by John Ritter.
Would you believe I used to be fat?
I bet you were real cute.
No, not just fat, but a regular butterball. You bet your fern I was. We used to say that as kids. You bet your fern. But I was F-A-T.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, fat kids are hot. Tell me about your boy.
Hello?
Haystack, it's me, Mike.
You're dead, that boy.
Okay, these flashback transitions are getting a little silly.
Extreme close-up!
Listen, it's come back.
Ritter says no to his on the go as he sits atop a tall building and ponders his past about being the new kid.
Welcome to Derry.
Thank you, Miss Douglas.
Oink, oink. What a porker.
Henry Bowers.
You will stay for 1 hour after school every day this week. Now, report to the principal's office.
You're dead, fat boy.
That I'm going to allow. Threatening his life is okay, but calling him a porker is simply going too far. So Ben meets up with a girl named Beverly. They seem to hit it off pretty good, but the chorus from Grease has other ideas.
I want to make sure you remember my name.
I'll remember, Henry. I'll remember.
How am I going to make sure?
Oh, I almost forgot! Take a shot for the one-dimensional bullies that have no development or redeemable qualities whatsoever! Silly me! I thought I came across one that had some form of humanity. Now, so he loses the bullies as he comes across the kids from Stand By Me, I mean his classroom. And of course they become very good friends. But that doesn't help smooth things over with his stepfamily.
Hey, Mom, listen to this. Benny's in love. Give this back. Oh, Mom, my stop that! Benjamin, parents, come stop that immediately, you young ruffian. I hate you. You're only here because Mom says it's our Christian duty.
Hey, take a shot for a heavy-handed slap against conservative fundamentalists. What? That doesn't count? Well, surely there's gotta be some overblown wine fest. Alright. I'll have to read another one of your stories to see the. So Ben comes across some sort of sewer entrance where the evil clown is waiting for him.
Come here, son. You'll like it down there.
You'll never have to grow up.
Daddy?
Yes, my dear. Would I lie?
They float. They all float.
So the clown doesn't really hurt him or anything. He just sort of points at him and calls him fat. What a jerk. But we cut to yet another childhood friend who gets a call. Beverly, who's with a coworker in the 90s who's so successful that his mullet is almost reaching his knees.
I've got to go to Maine. That was Mike Hanlon on the phone. You remember the call at work today? He's an old dear friend. I have to...
Oh yeah, I forgot. Everybody in a Stephen King story is a except for the insecure poet and or loser. I think that calls for another shot. Why are you all spinning?
You get into bed.
No.
Then maybe you can leave this house in 2
No!
days instead of 2 weeks.
Not ever, ever, ever again!
Bev, you need me. Bev!
Nice emoting there, guy.
Bev!
Bev! Luckily, a cab comes to take her to her next flashback, where we see that Ben has left a poem for her.
What you got there?
Nothing.
Let me see that. You've been fooling around with some boy? Sometimes I worry a lot.
Daddy, please.
Sheesh, no matter what scene this chick is in, she's always.
You get right the hell back here, baby! Or before God, I'll whip the skin off of you!
Oh, of course! Rednecks! Can't forget about the rednecks. That calls for a shot. So she meets up with Ben and heads over to the rest of the geeks and outcasts who pretty much make up the only decent people in this town.
It's the River Nile. And count them 4 sphinxes. Richie Toge is my name. And doing voices is my game.
Hey look, Seth Green is playing a funny geek who spends most of his time doing voices. I'm far too to make a joke out of that. So the gang gets together and starts making a dam. Why? Because it's Maine, and by that's as exciting as it gets. There's even some famous writers who write about it. That's how exciting it is up there. So we see Bev and her father back at home. They're always in Stephen King story. So she goes to the bathroom sink where the clown snot bubble clogs up her drain and gets blood all over the place. Just like before, the grown-ups don't see it.
Get to bed.
Bloody boogers. Sorry, I think the are going to my... The camera's pretty. Anyway, cut to the next childhood friend getting a call, which appears to be Andy Dick searching for his happy pills.
Where are you going?
I gotta go back to Derry.
Derry? Why would you want to go back to that dirty little town? There's nothing for you there. There never was, Eddie.
Why is it these people have a talent for surrounding themselves with the craziest nutballs. Is anyone in this world outside the main characters likable? What kind of water are they drinking in Maine to make them so